Hello and welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're here for our workshop on exploring solution-focused brief therapy through martial arts and movement. I'm Erica, and I'll be kicking things off for today. So again, thank you so much for joining. And I'll be introducing my co-hosts, Josh and David, later. But in order for you to have the best experience so far for today in our workshop, there's a few different things I'd like you to do. In the bottom of your screen, you'll be able to click on the participant list and you can rename yourself. So make sure that whatever name you're using is what you'd like to be shown up seeing on the recording. And you can also add the location or which city you're coming from. Secondly, if you are able to, I'd love for you to turn on your video. It's important for us to connect with you and see where you're joining from all over the world. And for the chat box, this is how we're going to connect with you and communicate throughout the session. So we'll be highlighting some comments in the chat. And in terms of your viewing perspective, at the top right corner, you can hit the view and hit speaker view. And after that, you'll want to go to full screen mode in order to see us clearly. And to set things off, I'm going to share a promotional video that we created for this session. What can martial arts teach us about being better therapists? It can teach us about presence, persistence, and adapting to change.
I use boxing and other activities with teams because movement opens up different pathways to meaningful conversations. It builds confidence and helps us talk about emotions in the moment.
This session is part story, part demonstration, and part poetry. It's about how disciplined movement shapes how we show up in life and in the therapy room.
Hi, I'm Erica Ramos.
Hi, I'm David Barnes.
And I'm Joshua-Cornelius Sagula.
If you're interested in learning how to use martial arts to master solution-focused brief therapy, learn some cool moves, and even sweat a little, come to our workshop.
We'll be presenting at the SF24 conference on May 2nd, 2025.
So join us and let's punch our way to calmness together.
And now that you've seen a bit about our intentions, I'd love to hear from you in the chat. What are your best hopes from being here today in our workshop? And secondly, do you have any experience in doing martial arts yourself? Post that in the chat as well. David, again, well, we want to thank you all for being here. We're really excited to have you here. Sheridan, also looking forward to spending this time with you. If you can post in the chat, what are your best hopes? Liz, self-defense classes. Well, you'll be learning how to do a few new things with David's presentation soon. Looking forward to hearing more about this. Looking forward to learning ideas on how to use movement in our therapy sessions. We'll absolutely be talking about that today. No martial arts experience, but hope to learn more from you. And yeah, no experience. Looking forward to seeing us in action. Well, thank you for joining us today. And we hope that you take something away from this that maybe inspires you or encourages you to think creatively in your work and incorporate more movement into your work with your clients. So I'd like to introduce our presenters today. Let me just spotlight them. So my name is Erica. I'm an occupational therapist based in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and I work in community mental health as well as in private practice. And David, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm David Barnes. I'm a pre-licensed therapist in Pennsylvania. I am an SFBT focused therapist, and I'm also a recovering school counselor. Josh.
Yeah, I'm Joshua-Cornelius Sagula from Sweden, actually, and I'm a social worker in Child Protective Services.
Thanks, Josh and David. And Josh, David, and I actually met about 1.5 years ago through the Solution Focus Universe. And we've been meeting every week since then, just to talk about solution focus and how to support one another in our businesses and in our lives in general. And that's what I love about not only solution focus, but this conference. It's something that has connected us from all over the world. And David today is going to be talking about his innovative work in combining boxing with solution-focused brief therapy and his work with teens. So I'm excited for you to learn more about his work and get to experience a bit of a session for yourself. And Josh, well, he's an amazing poet and he has such a beautiful way with words. Today he'll be sharing a few poems about the client perspective when it comes to solution-focused brief therapy. And I think he captures hope and transformation in a way that's really powerful. And just to set the tone for today, today's session is about exploring martial arts and movement and the difference that it makes from several perspectives, both in our lives as individuals, in the lives of our clients, and how it impacts how we show up as therapists in the therapy room. As an OT myself, I've been thinking about how can we go beyond just traditional goal setting in our work with clients. And that is done truly through solution focus. It's asking what difference does that make, that activity or martial art make to them in their lives. For myself, in particular, I've been doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, and I found that it's made a huge difference in my life in feeling more calm, feeling present with my clients. And I just love the challenge of continuous learning how to refine your techniques and new patterns. And it helps you to connect with this community. Most importantly, it's helped me to learn about perseverance and how to adapt to change. And I think all of these qualities really translate well in the therapy room with your clients. I've been recently exploring Filipino martial arts, which is ablated martial arts indigenous to the Philippines. And I connected with a teacher who talked about the importance of passing on this knowledge through the generations. Otherwise, this knowledge is going to be lost. And it's reminded me about the connections that we make through solution focus and how we're passing down that knowledge. Because it's not always something that you find within textbooks or courses, but it's knowledge that you're passing through this connection with your mentors. And one person, I forgot to share some photos, but this is David's therapy practice, and you can see him in action doing some therapy, boxing therapy with some youth and teens. Here he is as well. So I'm really excited for you to get to experience this in a bit. There's this quote by Bruce Lee, I think we've mentioned a bunch of times together, but it helped me to think about how this relates to solution focus. Empty your mind, be formless, shapeless like water. Be water, my friend. And I think about the adaptability when it comes to both martial arts and in working with our clients. One person that I want to give a special shout out to was one of my mentors, Joel Simon. You might recognize him, but he's a longstanding member of the community in New York. And he actually earned his 3rd Dan in Taekwondo last summer and became a senior instructor. So congratulations to Joel. But in particular, he shared with me an essay that he wrote. You can email him if you want a copy. But he wrote about the concept of Do, which is the way of being. And he looked at this and talked about how we rely on cooperation within training sessions with partners, not necessarily competition, but thinking about training with someone like you're in a session with a client. He had this quote, resistance begets resistance and cooperation begets cooperation. So for me, that's really changed the way I think about working with clients. It's reframing that resistance, and it's about adapting with change, going with movements that are there. And just like in jiu-jitsu, if a grip or a certain move isn't working, you flow and you try something else. So those are just some of my thoughts that I want to share to sort of set the tone for this workshop. In both martial arts and therapy, it's about listening, adapting, and building on what's already working. So this workshop is about exploring more of that, that movement, presence, that flow and connection with our clients. And to start us off with this workshop, I'm going to pass this on to David.
Thank you so much, Erica. Great beginning of this session. I'm so thankful for everybody to be here today. Thank you especially to Erica and Josh. I just want to share that Josh and I keep finding similarities. And just before we started this meeting, we found out that our mothers have the same name, which is just, I don't know, it's just a weird coincidence. Every time I learn something more about Josh, we're more connected. But yeah, so I'll give you a quick outline of what I'm hoping to do in our session today. So I want to start with a demonstration. I'll get you up and we'll be doing like a little exercise. Then I'm going to talk about what it's like to master martial arts and how that relates to mastering solution-focused brief therapy. I'll tell you about my journey and what some of my sessions look like with some examples there too. And before we get into the demo, I want you guys to just think of what ways you might incorporate movement, be it martial arts or some other movement, into your practices, into what you do with your work with your clients. So, all right, with that out of the way, everybody ready to stand up and get some exercise in? Doesn't matter, it's time for it. So, the first thing I want to teach you, let me stand back a little bit. So, for the sake of simplicity and time, I'm going to assume that everybody here is right-handed. If you're not right-handed, I'm not trying to offend you. It's just what I'm going to do for simplicity's sake. So right-handed fighters usually stand with their left leg forward. Hopefully that makes sense. It might be mirrored in the camera, but stand with your left leg forward. I'm going to teach you how to throw a jab, which will be your lead hand punch. So since your left leg is forward, your lead leg is your left leg, your lead hand will be your left hand. And so a jab, which we also call a number one punch, just goes out like this and comes out. So if everybody can try that real quick, go out and come back. That's a jab, and it doesn't count until it gets all the way back to your face. So it goes out, it comes back. And notice that my right hand is back here at my cheek the whole time, defending myself in case something else comes. So again, number one or jab goes out, turn your shoulder over, turn your hand over, and comes right back. Now, the number two, or the cross, is your backhand. In this case, my right hand. It's going to go out across my body, starting at the back of my body, going all the way across. Now it's at the front of my body. That's a cross or a two. So it's again a two. Try it out. Two. And I'm sorry, I forgot to say, if you wouldn't mind, turn your cameras on. I think Erica said it earlier, but this can be more interactive if you guys turn your cameras on. If you don't want to, it's fine too. I'll trust you that you're doing this on your own. We're about to have a competition, all right? So the next part of this is linking them together. So when you throw the one out, as the one comes back, you throw the two. Got it? And so the competition is going to be, I want you guys to do this. They're going to do a 30 count. And it's going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4. I want you guys to count on your own. I'm going to count on my own. Well, I'll count out loud, but we're going to get to 30. All right. And I want you to go as fast as you can. See if you can beat me again with your own. If you can do this, do this. If you can't, don't hurt yourself, but just try to do it. All right. Everybody ready? On your mark, get set, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 30. Woo! Everybody feeling good? Hope so. So, all right, now I won't be able to see you guys as much. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns, please put them into the chat. Erica and Josh will stop me at any point if they need to let me know what you guys are thinking. All right. So I like to start my sessions off with movement, get the blood flowing. It allows us to have a really good and meaningful conversation. And so now that our blood is flowing, I'll start talking to you guys about what I like about mastering martial arts and solution-focused brief therapy. So one of the insights I got on my journey to mastering martial arts, I wouldn't say I've mastered any, but I've done boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, MMA classes, and I now do Wing Chun, which is a form of Chinese Kung Fu. One of the things that I have learned through martial arts is that first you learn the rules. First, you're really strict and you have to obey the rules as much as you can. You can't really deviate from the rules. And then eventually you come to the point where you start to incorporate your own flavor. You can start to incorporate your own style. And eventually you can bend the rules, you can break the rules, you can learn what to do when the rules aren't working for you. So one of the first things we learn in boxing class is to not cross our feet. But if you look at somebody like Floyd Mayweather, Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, and you might see them cross their feet, but it's because they understand the rules at such a master expert level that they know when they can break those rules, when they can do their own thing and still make it work, and make it work better than you can make following the rules work. Hope that makes sense. So the same thing applies when thinking about learning solution-focused brief therapy or any other form of therapy that we practice. when I first started, I learned from two guys named Elliot Connie and Dr. Adam Frower. As Erica mentioned, they're part of the Solution Focused universe. And when I was first learning it, I really was imitating what they would say. I would try to say my words the way they say them. When I was talking with clients, I would try to think, oh, what would Elliot say here? What would Adam say here? And, I still think that stuff sometimes, but nowadays I am able to have my own flavor with it. I'm able to do my own style. I may ask a question that sounds similar to what they would ask, but I ask it my own way. I have my own way of speaking. And what Adam will often say is like, we are humans first, then we're therapists, then we're solution focused brief therapists. We try to be really SF when we do things, but we have to be our authentic self. We have to connect with them at a deep level by being ourselves. If we don't, it doesn't work. And with that understanding, you might then understand why I felt free to incorporate movement into my sessions, because that is a part of who I am. So I want you guys to think and put in the chat a skill, art, it could be a martial arts, something that you've practiced that has helped you become a better therapist. For those of you who are therapists, I'm sorry, we didn't even, I don't think we asked, but is everybody, well, I know some people here are not therapists and some people are not solution focused brief therapists. So if you can think about that skill as it relates to being a therapist, that's good. If you're not a therapist, if you can think about that skill as it relates to working with young people, or working with people in the field that you're in, put it in the chat, like some things that you do. Yeah, Liz, it's the diamond approach. Yeah. Solution focused brief therapy diamond approach, diamond model. That's what Elliot Connie and Dr. Adam Frower have taught us. Yeah, so while you're putting that stuff in the chat, I'll tell you a little bit about my story. So, as I mentioned, I did a lot of different martial arts, and I really got in, I was doing them somewhat beforehand, but I really got back into martial arts when I was in grad school. And you might say that it was kind of my own form of therapy. It helped me get through some of the stressful times in class, helped me stay calm and centered, because after a good session, you just feel a little better. And so one of the things that I learned from doing a lot of different arts and boxing is after the classes, a lot of times, well, we would have a lesson. Let me back up, slow down. We would have a lesson, and then we would have sparring. And for any of you guys who don't know, sparring is what I might call gentle fighting. It's fighting where you're not trying to knock each other out. You're not trying to hurt each other in a way that they can't recover, but you are punching, you are kicking, you are really trying to land your punches. You're not trying to just, stop your punch in front of their face. You're trying to hit them. And so we would do this oftentimes at least once or twice a week. And so after class, we'd have these sparring sessions. And what I noticed about myself is after a good sparring session, I felt really calm, really relaxed, really at peace. And I think part of the reason that would happen is because my blood is flowing. There's endorphins going. So, to some degree, like you might get the similar high feeling from running and doing other high intensity exercises. But the other part, this is where I don't know that other exercises have this, is it's a really, really mindful activity. It's something that you have to be present with, because I can't, if I'm sparring with a guy who, especially if he's better than me, I can't be thinking about all my problems that I was dealing with that day. I couldn't be thinking about a paper I had to write for my grad school. I had to be in the moment and leave all that other stuff behind. So I just noticed, I thought that was just a really powerful thing, that it allowed me to be really mindful and present and be more at peace. The other thing I noticed is that after these great sparring sessions with these big tough guys, big muscles, punching each other, kicking each other, after that we would all sit down and take off our boxing gloves and our gear, and these big tough guys would start opening up. They would start telling each other about things that are going on in their life. Some good stuff, some bad stuff, some stuff they're stressed about, some stuff that's just going on in their life. So I thought, that's something. There's got to be something to that. I started to think, how can I incorporate this into what I do? At the time, I was still a school counselor, and I decided to start incorporating it in my work with the teens I saw. I was working in a high school, and I just brought my gloves in and my pads, and I would have some of the kids. If anybody here has worked in a school or been a school counselor, that you get sent a lot of kids who are which you might call troubled, or not doing what they're supposed to be doing in class, might be causing a ruckus or different things. And a lot of these kids didn't do well opening up with somebody sitting down in front of them. So what I would do sometimes is get them to get up, and sometimes it would look like me holding pads and them punching the pads, or other times we'd have a catch. I was fortunate enough to have like a nice outside area outside of my office, so I could walk around with them sometimes. And you can notice and tell a real difference in a kid after they do some movement. They're calmer, they're more willing to open up and talk about things. So I just thought that was a really cool thing. And if I can make my job easier rather than having to have 5 or 6 conversations with somebody before they start opening up, I figured I'd make it easier. So it wasn't just with the troubled ones that I started using this with. I used it with some of my other students who, though they might be opening up, they might still have some frustration, some energies that needed to get out. And if we did some, intense mitt work, them punching my mitts and got a little sweat on, they would start to feel better. I most notably used this with a girl who was having a panic attack. She's on the floor, stressed and crying, saying she couldn't do it. She was shaking a little, and I don't know if it was because I couldn't think of anything better at the time or what, but I just said, "Hey, you want to go box?" She kind of gave me this look like, "What? What? Go box?" And it kind of shook her out of it, and she started to laugh, and she's like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Yeah, come on, we're gonna go box." And she did. She got up, laughed, boxed, and then we had a really good, meaningful conversation. And I don't know, I just had all these little moments that like really let me know that like there's something to movement, and helping people heal, helping people feel better through therapy. So fast forward to me starting my private practice. I was looking for a place, and because I wanted to incorporate boxing into my therapy, so I looked for a place, and I found a physical therapist office who she works with a lot of older people with Parkinson's, and she incorporates boxing. As many people might know, Muhammad Ali had Parkinson's, so that's part of the inspiration for her mode of physical therapy, and she's very successful with it. And it's just a nice big open space that has boxing bags and mitts and all that stuff. So I was like, wow, this is exactly what I was looking for. So I've been working there, or have my practice there for the past 2 years about, and it's been going great. So with that understanding, let me tell you what a typical movement session looks like for me. As we kind of alluded to earlier, I use the SFBT Diamond, as I learned from Elliot and Adam. And when I start my session, my goal in a movement session in particular, my goal is to introduce them to the space and give them a free space where we can have a healing conversation. That's really my main goal for doing all this movement things. It's just for them to have a free space where they can move, where we can have a meaningful conversation. So I introduce the space to them. I give them a tour. There's boxing bags, big open space. There's exercise bikes in another room. We can do that. There's equipment. There's trampolines. There's balancing beams. There's stepping stones. All these things that kids can use. And if they use something they're not supposed to, I'll let them know. But I usually don't go into it with a whole bunch of different rules, and they usually are pretty good about knowing what they can do. If anything, I usually have to tell them, no, it's okay. You can use that thing. They're used to people telling them what they can't do. I think of it almost like the Police Touch Museum, where like it's the one place they're allowed to do stuff and explore. And that's how I try to have it here. So after I do that, if it's a boxing student, which I usually do a little bit older, like middle school and high school kids, I don't always do that with the younger ones, but I will do a little boxing fundamentals like we did. I'll probably work on the footwork a little bit more. We may do some jump rope, other things to get the blood flowing again, and then we'll sit down and have a conversation when they're tired. Or we may do some boxing, talk, do some boxing, talk, stuff like that. But after I introduce them to the boxing, I go into my solution focus kind of stuff. I get their best hopes. For those of you who are not familiar, we ask a question like, what are your best hopes from talking? Or what are you hoping to get out of talking today? Or how do you hope to be different as a result of therapy? If you came in to see me for therapy, you're hoping something in your life is different. And what does that different look like? A really good one I use with little kids is, what kind of person do you want to be as a result of therapy? Little kids are really good for imagining like the identity of who they want to be. Good version, bad version, all these different things. I had one kid who was talking about he when I asked him about this, he wanted to be a role model. This is a kid who was somewhat, I wouldn't call him troubled, but he was doing some things that like his parents weren't happy with. He wasn't really happy with, but getting him to identify that he wanted to be a role model helped him become more of a role model. Now he is, I would say he is a role model, even at his young age. So once I understand a basic outline of who they want to be, what kind of life they want to have, then I get them to describe it in as much detail as we can. That might look like talking about what their future looks like. It might look like talking about times when they've been that role model in the past, times when they, done something good in the past. It might also look like what do they have inside of them that lets them know that they can be a role model. This is a very, very brief overview of what the SFBT Diamond is, just for the sake of time. I'm not going to go into it much more than that. But if you want to know more information, let us know. We can definitely give you some resources and stuff on how we do SFBT. But that being said, that might sound kind of simple too, but a punch may look simple until you go and try to do it. A punch, a kick, especially a kick, may look like, oh yeah, I could do that. But doing that in a way that is actually going to land on your target, doing that in a way that doesn't make you fall over, that takes time, it takes practice, it takes mastery. And the same thing applies with this. This is not something that I just got good at overnight. I've been practicing it strictly, this model, for the past better part of 3 years. And it has been a great struggle to get really good at this now. So with that being said, I want to tell you guys about some of my examples of when I've used this movement really well and when it's led to some breakthroughs that I don't know would have happened other times. So this is the first person I'll talk about as a kid. I'll call him Andrew. Andrew's 5 years old. He's having some behavioral issues. His mom and dad are both therapists. His dad is in the room with me while we have our first session. And most of our sessions is one of his parents was in the room or right outside the room with me. But he, I showed him a space. He wanted to make an obstacle course. So he took some of the items that are in the physical therapist's office, used them, made an obstacle course. While he was doing that, I was talking to him, having a pretty good basic conversation about his best hopes and trying to get into what he wanted to get out of this. I knew what his parents wanted, but I wanted to know what he wanted to get out of therapy. And then while we were talking, he made the obstacle course and they started running it. And when I started asking him questions while he was running it, he said, wait, stop. I need you to ask me questions after I get done running this thing. So we developed like this pattern of like, okay, he would run a lap and then I would ask a question, then he'd run a lap and I ask a question. And so throughout this conversation, we got his best hopes, as I would label as he wanted to be good Andrew and he wanted bad Andrew to go away. And his dad said he had never spoke like this. He never talked in these terms before, but we got him to think about, what does it look like when good Andrew is there? And we also got him to think about what does bad Andrew need? What does bad Andrew want in order to either go away or be okay or turn back into good Andrew? And, I don't like labeling kids as good or bad or anything like that, but this was his word. So I just went with it. Again, with SF, we are really big into going with the client's language. It's co-construction, but we try to use their language. But anyway, that evolved into different sides of Andrew. It evolved into angry Andrew, sad Andrew, happy Andrew, angry, all these different sides of Andrew. And I don't know that this breakthrough would have came through as easily if we weren't moving. That makes sense. So the next big one I will talk about is a kid, we'll call him T. He's 9 years old, and he lost his father about a year before this session I'm going to talk to you about. I met with him about maybe 3 or 4 times, and we had nice conversations. Really good kid. He was really happy to talk to me each time, but we hadn't really gotten that deep. We talked about his dad a little bit, but he hadn't really gotten that deep. Didn't really want to talk about too much. We started getting close to the time, like maybe a few weeks to a month away from like the anniversary of his dad dying, and we were doing some boxing. And I should mention he already knew how to box. His grandfather taught him how to box, and so he was pretty good. So we started doing some more advanced stuff. And one thing that I'll do sometimes when they're ready is have them like try to hit me. And again, he's only 9, so I knew it wasn't going to hurt me. He's had big gloves on, and he's not trying to knock me out. He's just trying to tap me. But this particular day, he's really aggressive. And I was like, wonder what's going on with you guys. So I just talked to him and say, you okay? Angry? What's going on? And he really wouldn't say anything. He just kept being more and more aggressive. And eventually, his face turned from like being fine to like an angry face, and it turns like holding back tears, and it turns like full on tears, to him going to the ground, pounding on the ground, to me and him just being on the ground and having a beautiful conversation about what his father meant to him and how sad he was for him to be gone. And we had such a meaningful, deep conversation that I don't think either one of us will forget. And again, I don't know if this conversation would have happened in the office, because like I said, he was kind of slow to talk and open up about this stuff. He had been through counseling before. But yeah, last one I'll talk about real quick is I have a couple siblings. You saw one of them in the picture earlier, and sometimes we have sessions together, sometimes we have sessions separately. But when we have our sessions together, we usually are playing some sort of game. You guys still hear me? Sorry, it's saying my internet is unstable. If you can't hear me, let me know, Eric, guys.
Yeah, we can hear you. Your connection is a bit shaky, but it's okay.
Okay, great. So these two little girls sometimes will play games. Inevitably, if any of you are siblings or have ever seen a sibling, there's going to be an argument at some point. And it's been a really great opportunity while playing to see what that anger looks like. If I was just sitting in an office and we were talking, sure, they might bring up some situation that happened last week or before, but being in real time, seeing what happened, and being able to be there to see them go from angry to happy, being able to see them go from I hate you to coming back together and playing into the game. And they have really wonderful ways of like calming each other down, and talking about that has been really rewarding as well. Again, things that I don't know would happen quite the same if we were sitting down talking. So last thing I'll say, or last couple of things, is just that incorporating movement, it doesn't have to be complicated. You can do what we did earlier, do some punching, you can do some jump rope, you can just have a catch, you can go for a walk. Any type of movement can help kids open up more and just make it safe and fun, and let them tell you what they want to do. Other thing I'll say is, like, for the young kids, keep it simple, because it can get really easy to get off track. One of the reasons why I love SF is that we immediately try to find an anchor that we can tie the rest of the conversations to. That anchor, like in the example I gave earlier, was like being a role model. So it doesn't matter if I'm playing a game with a kid and I get off track and I can't remember where we were before. As long as I remember that this kid wants to be a role model, I can ask a question that can point him towards that direction again. And the last thing I want to say is just that, my whole goal, like I said, is to make therapy a safer, less judgmental place for the people I work with. For a lot of young guys, therapy is not a safe place. Therapy is a place that can feel like an interrogation room. Even with the brilliant, positive questions we've asked with SF, some kids can still feel like it's an interrogation. And so what I'm trying to do is just make it a safe place for people to open up and start that healing process. So I want you to, again, put in the chat, if you can, what movement activities could you incorporate into your practice? What has this made you think of? And while you do that, I'm going to turn it over to my great buddy Josh, who has the same mother with the same name as my mother, and he's going to give you some poetry. And I thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, David. Before we passed on to Josh, I was going to highlight some comments, because you're asking the audience about incorporating movement into our work together, our therapy work. So Liz spoke about drumming, Karen using movement and music in her work, Lewis using psychodrama, Riding Dresses Horses by Nikki, Samuel doing some Tai Chi, and Annabelle doing yoga, and Petya breathing, psychosensory techniques. And there's one question for you, David, that I want to highlight. Liz was asking about whether you work with the special people with special needs, or the special needs population.
Oh, that's a good question. Yes, I would say I have a few clients who are on the autism spectrum. I didn't mention before, but I have some friends here from another organization I work with called Grow Now, which I'm an ADHD coach with that company, and it's a great company. And I would say most of my ADHD work is done through them. But yeah, I definitely will work with people who are on the spectrum. I have a great love for that population. I've worked with them.
I think we've lost David's connection. Hopefully he comes back, but maybe we'll pass it on to you, Josh, and you can start off your session.
Front of me, or perhaps lots of experts, more than a dozen. So I'm nervous. I don't know what to say. I am not my grief. No. I am not the sadness. No. I am not a mess despite what's going on in my life. Maybe you see the strife. You hear about the trouble and see my struggle, but I am not that. You heard about what led me here. I'm in pain and hurting because of the strain. It's so heavy, so how can I not be as sad as you see me? Maybe, I don't know. What do you see when you look at me? What is your first and withstanding impression? Are you willing to stand with me? Do you hear about the depression and label me as depressed or stressed? Because I just might be, right? That is a label given to me based on how I've been assessed. So why do you ask me what my best hopes are? How do you know that I have some? You ask me in a way that makes me think that I'm capable. I'm able, right? To disable the label that will enable me from my identity, because my hope lies in my heart. So I guess your part is to see me as I lift my hands and kick my feet. I'm doing it through expected defeat. In the eyes of society, I'm a victim of life's brutality. But in your questions, I'm viewed as a victor. With every punch thrown, I create the narrative. My story is the one I'm telling, and that's imperative. I am beyond the label and the labels. I am. So, poetry, boxing, or movement. The way I think, or what I've been taught, especially in boxing, is how it can be useful to us in life and in the therapy room as well. I don't know if you guys have heard the saying, if you maybe said it yourself, 2 steps forward and then 2 steps forward and a step back. And usually we say it in a way that doesn't sound too hopeful. But in boxing it is. Because the 2 steps forward you're doing in boxing is you're attacking. And that step back is just enough to leave you out of range for an incoming attack. So I think I've been trying to think about that in, life and in the way our clients, how we can help them view life as well. That step back is not a setback, but it's time to see that attack coming. And even if the destination might take longer to reach, you might reach there safer. I learned how to punch so that I wouldn't act out on a hunch. I learned how to kick so that I could release my feelings and not get sick, because they're boiling within. Outside the gym or the ring, I'm labeled as trouble. They don't see my struggle because they're caught living in their bubble, living well and fair. Well, I live on welfare. So when I'm asked what my best hopes are, I get to share and move from my despair. I get to breathe, to inhale and exhale, and actually feel that I can prevail. That's the feeling looming in the air. It isn't easy to open up. I'm supposed to be tough. The parts of my life that I go through that are rough, the drops of tears that I carry are my fears held in captivity. But I also carry hope in my heart. There lies my identity. And here, I get a chance to focus and be present, to release any shame that makes claim on my name, because I am not the label that brought me here. I came under duress, but I'm not depressed, stressed. I am me, still learning to be. With all the punches that I throw, the more I show and understand that I have the resources to grow. And healing lies in the process of hope. And your questions hand me the rope I need to climb up. And as you can hear, there's a bit of similarity in the poems, but I think a lot of our clients share a similar experience. Not the same, but similar. When you call me sad or mad, is that what I am or who? I'm enabling the label that you give when you don't see me, so I choose to disable the label because I'm able, I'm me. When you or they say that I'm stressed, depressed, or regressed, and somehow make that out to be my identity rather than the entity that is me, what is my or our reality? So, no, I have it, the label, but I also have hope. A hope of change that is an inspiration and act as a motivation for transformation from the label. I hope for change internally, reflected externally. I am me. I might have trauma, but I am hoping to clearly see, to be free, to understand that my inner desire is still here and there through moments of despair and situations that make me tired. I aspire higher. And eventually, I'll see that peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of hope. Now, I'm going to be really, really selfish here. I'm going to ask someone to write something in the chat or put on your cameras or something, because I can't see you and I'm feeling really awkward looking at myself. So if you guys can just give me a wave or something, something, put it in the chat, because I'm feeling really awkward. Thank you for the heart. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Josh. That was beautiful, and lots of comments below. Amazing job. Hearts. And I love these quotes. Healing lies in the process of hope, and your questions hand me the hope I need to climb up. And that other quote, peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of hope. Beautiful, Josh. And oh, comment from Safina. Beautiful. Can we have these? Josh, you got to start a blog. Post this online. And thank you, David, for sharing your work. You cut off, so you're right in the middle of a response, but if there's anything that you'd like to share, feel free to unmute and share that with the audience.
Yeah, I was just saying, yes, I do work with special needs population. I have a few clients right now who are on the autism spectrum. And outside of that, I work with a company called Grow Now as an ADHD coach. And, I really enjoy working with that population. I think I have undiagnosed ADHD as well. So like, I like all special needs populations. Yeah, I love working with them.
Well, in the chat, what have been your highlights or takeaways from the session so far today? Well, I think 2 steps forward and 1 step back is a move to get out of harm's way. I love that part as well. And Safina saying, I need to use movement more in teaching as well. Katya, be your authentic self to level up your training. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. More comments here. Franz, I have an interest in getting into the minds of clients, and Josh has done that for me. Awesome. Yeah, those are some beautiful, beautiful poems there. And as a trauma therapist, the importance of other approaches other than talking about it are key. Absolutely. Yeah, and thank you, Nikki, for joining. She loved that peace is not the absence of problems, it's the presence of hope. Love that quote as well. And gives us a way to approach problem. Those were the highlights and key takeaways from today. I guess we'll open it up to question and answers. If anyone has any specific questions from Josh or David, please let us know in the chat and we'll highlight you on screen. I'm just highlighting some more comments. Very inspiring. Approaching problems from a place of peace. Love the quietness of your words. And me, how are you using movement in my sessions? So as an occupational therapist, that's a big part of my work is getting people back to the things that they want and need to do in their everyday lives. Sometimes I'll be walking with clients during sessions, doing walk and talk therapy. I've had a teen, and it's not necessarily movement, but we did a lot of creative projects. So art together. Went on a hike. We did an escape room. So not necessarily martial arts, but movement and activities I definitely incorporate into my practice. Any final comments from you, David or Josh?
Well, I also have, Nikki, how does martial arts influence the way you move with your clients? I think that's for you, David.
Oh, I thought it could be for any of us, but I think Erica kind of touched on that earlier with our ability to change and adapt as they ask, or as they respond to our questions, respond to what we say. A lot of times with SF, one of the biggest critiques or problems people have is like they ask a question in the SF way, and the client doesn't answer in the way that they were expecting him to. Like you may ask them, "What are you hoping to get out of counseling?" And the client may say, "I don't know," and you get stuck, and you might switch back to some other thing. You might go to a CBT thing, but the better you are with SF, the better you can be like, no, whatever answer they give is a beautiful answer. I will turn that into my next question or turn it into my next comment, whatever, and just flow with it. And it's the same with martial arts. If I'm sparring with somebody, I can't be like, hey, wait a minute, you threw a punch. It wasn't, you turned your fist like this. That's not how we punch in boxing. I have to still dodge it, move out of the way, do whatever I'm going to do. There's certain rules in boxing and things, but like, you just roll with it. You flow with it and you do what you got to do. But you only do that through, practicing enough and learning different ways of getting unstuck, getting out of where you got tripped up. Sorry, shameless plug for my next talk at 5 p.m. today, getting unstuck and using solution-focused brief therapy.
But also, I think what martial arts has helped me to do is to be present and be focused. And that's what we all need to be all the time, because, for instance, like in boxing, the worst punch isn't the hardest one. It's the one you don't see coming, because that's usually the one that'll knock you out. But when you're present and fully focused, you can see what's coming your way, and you can able to protect you can better protect yourself from it, and you can adapt. And I think that those foundations are with me in my work. Whereas How am I able to adapt to the client's language? By being focused and being present and listening and taking in. Not having my own agenda, but being present. So I think that's a very big lesson. We all do it. I get helped from martial arts to do it even better.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is sometimes through conversations with clients, some people that do martial arts, it's interesting the lessons that we learn from martial arts, and that's often what the conversation is about. I had a client recently who's talking about anger, and we talked about how he was shifting, I guess, his energy from anger to something else, and just talking about adapting to changes. Question from Lewis, do you ever have music playing in the background as a client is doing martial arts? For example, having a client create a playlist of music that helps them and have it playing. It's really interesting. Josh and David, do you ever use music?
I do, but I haven't had it. I think it's a really good idea having a client come up with something. The only problem I found, so with the younger kids, sometimes I'll have like, I do like to not have silence in the background in the big open space I have. So if I'm sitting with somebody, it can be really, really quiet. So I do like have like soundtrack music playing in the background sometimes. With the younger kids, I'll sometimes have some, I don't know, fun affirmation type kid music playing. But then I left it playing the one time, and like Supercalifragilistic came on, and my teen client was like, "Oh, that's my favorite movie," and we had like a conversation, but we had to like kind of turn the music off because at a certain point it was just like a conversation about Mary Poppins.
That we have about 1 minute left. I just want to take this opportunity. If everyone could like a reaction and give a warm applause to Erica, because she's the main host and she got us together, and she's just a genius and a wonderful person. So if you can give her hearts, whatever you can.
Thanks, Josh.
I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for you. I really am.
Thanks, Josh. I was happy to be your hype people for today. Really just wanted to highlight your work. So I think that brings us to the end of the session. We want to give you those 5 minutes to jump into the next meeting. But thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the SF24 conference. Right. Bye, everyone.